Wise Wednesdays started on April 1st with a humble episode on forgiveness. Between then and now, we've had heart-led conversations on happiness, stress management, relationships, resilience, public speaking, respecting boundaries, self-discovery, mindset, just being, listening, reclaiming your life, intuition, and even food. I would like to thank all my listeners and the guests who gave me their time and trust. It is because of you that we kept going. It is because of you that we kept growing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so, so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so, so much for joining us on episode 98 of Wise Wednesdays with RK. I am super thrilled. We're literally counting down to 100, and I have the most amazing stars on these shows. And I am so blessed that today with us is Coach Reggie. He's been the United States Marine Corps veteran and served on active duty for more than 20 years. His military experience is the foundation of his leadership development expertise and marks the genesis of his commitment to coaching. He's the founder and principal coach of Total Brilliance Coaching, and he is a fellow mentor coach at ICLI. A big high five to Coach Sophia, and I am sure she's watching. She better be. And without further ado, I bring to you my star speaker for today, Coach Reggie.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for saying yes. And I'm so excited about this conversation because today we are talking about words are powerful and so
Mm.
are you. That is something that I
Hmm.
so strongly believe in. So thank you for picking
Yes.
that topic for us. Hey,
Yeah,
we've got
thank you.
Wanda watching. Thank you, Coach Wanda. Thank you for joining us. So, Coach Reggie, when you say words are powerful and so are you, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. So the words we speak, not only to others, but equally, if not more important, the words we speak to ourselves are powerful. I'm sure we'll get into this part of the conversation, but there's one thing that comes to mind for me more than anything else. I call it soft language. Words like try, maybe, kinda, sort of, I guess, right? Very non-committal. And it often creates a back door. So if we try and it doesn't work out, oh, well, I tried. Even sometimes we can use soft language with other people. We're going to do our best to make it. Maybe you don't even have any intentions of making it, right? But the power in those words carries meaning. And so the meaning that we associate with the words we use are how they become powerful or how they take away power. So that's what it means to me, right? That words are powerful, and also words matter.
Hmm.
So the words we use as we speak to ourselves, the words we use when we speak to others, and that's verbally or written, right? How we communicate the words is what carries the power or the lack thereof. And we also need to know that we matter. So we matter in the words we use, we matter in the words we receive, and what we make them mean. And so that that may answer more than what you asked, but that is certainly my response to what that means.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing. And we've got friends watching us, friends and family watching us from all over the
All
world.
right.
We've got Vidya watching us. We've got Coach Wanda. We've got Mary Jackson. She's family indeed. Lovely. I
Yes, yes.
love when family steps in and gives us a big hug, virtual hug, but just being there
Oh
for
yeah.
us. And that's again a way of expression, isn't it? It's an expression.
Oh,
It's a,
absolutely.
it's without words, but it's powerful when
Hmm.
people stay with us and stand by us. So when did you actually transition or understand the power in the words you use?
Ooh. So I'll probably say this as a response a few times in this conversation, but that is a great question. And when I started my coach training back in 2014, I believe, and you know this for yourself as a coach, in that training, there's an introduction to how powerful words are. Because as coaches, when we work with our clients, we have them create an awareness about the words they use. So for me, um, just the way I related to the words I used and how I realized some of those words were disempowering and how some of those words took away my power, whether they were the words I spoke to myself or the words I heard from others. So I would certainly say in my coach training, and also as a coach, training is continuous. But in my coach
Yes.
training, initially, that was the introduction to how powerful words are. And I'll give a shameless plug for a book I read, which
Please.
actually it was required reading at the time, but I'm glad we were required to read it. And it actually became one of the books that had the greatest impact, or that has had, I should say, has had the greatest impact on me. And the author is Tracy Goss. She spells her name with no E, Tracy, Goss, Goss. And the book is The Last Word on Power. Of course, you can find it on Amazon and in other bookstores. But the book was so impactful for me. And first, because the title was interesting, right? The Last Word on Power. And so what she talks about in the book basically is, as leaders, there's a power we have available to us that has brought us to this place in our leadership. And for us to move beyond that, we have to be willing to do far more than what we've done in the past. Otherwise, to Einstein's, you know, definition of insanity, yeah, getting the same, yeah. So so for me, it was really powerful. So much so that after I read the book, I actually reached out to the author and I finally got a chance to have a conversation with her just to simply say, this book, she lives in New York. This book was so powerful, pardon the pun, for me. It's made a huge difference. And I suggest the book to clients and colleagues whenever, the conversation comes up about who we are in the world, how we communicate, and the places we want to go as far as goals we set and the things that we need to approach with intention.
Right. Hmm. Intention. Another very powerful word, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and when we align our focus to our intention,
Hmm.
that's what allows us to move powerfully through life. Um, More often than not, people talk about what they don't want.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, I don't want this. I don't want that. And the focus is on what they don't want, even though their intention may be the thing they want. That's not what their focus is on.
Hmm. And it's interesting because when you're focused on what you don't want and you're constantly saying, I don't want this, the universe will give you more of that because it doesn't pick up the word no, right? It shows up.
Exactly.
And then you're
Exactly.
wondering, why am I receiving more of what I don't want? That's because you keep talking about it, amplifying it.
Exactly. Exactly. There's this thing called the Bader Meinhof phenomenon. It's kind of like if you're interested in, let's say, a car.
Hmm.
All of a sudden you see that car everywhere. Well, the car didn't just appear, it's been there, right? It's just the awareness you created about the car. So to your point, If your focus is on what you don't want, that's what you see. That's what shows up.
That's what shows up. And I'm just gonna kind of sidetrack a bit, and there's a bracelet that I always wear. It's of
Mm,
gratitude. I'm a big advocate of gratitude, and I
yeah.
think the one, and this is a bracelet that isn't something that's very, sturdy. And in fact, a lot of people, I showed it to the person who sold it to me a few years later, and having worn it every day, day in and day out, and she
Hmm.
actually looked at me and she said, it hasn't broken, it's still intact. I'm like, yes, it is. But the one time that I was able to not find it, like it was in my purse all along, but I couldn't find it, was the one time that I was very, very upset with life, and I
Mm,
did not feel gratitude.
hmm.
So, and I couldn't find my gratitude bracelet. So when I take a step back from that experience and I see how powerful our mind is, it was right
Hmm.
there, it was right in my wallet where I had put it, but I just for the life of me couldn't see it lying there for
Yeah.
weeks, until I was ready to be back in that space of gratitude, was when it just instantly appeared in front of me, and I was like, ah, you've always been there, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's incredible. And, I would even assert as you were looking for it, a part of what crossed your mind was that you could not find it.
Yeah,
And so not finding it does not align with finding it.
true.
So, so
And
yeah.
and somewhere the conversation on my head was, why am I even wearing this bracelet? I do not feel that sense of gratitude. And to clarify to people who are watching and wondering what's she talking about, because I'm always talking about gratitude and acceptance. That was the time when I was struggling with acceptance of not having Papa in my world anymore. I was
Mm,
very upset. So it just was like, I have nothing. I'm not really grateful for where I am right now. I was almost like that rebel in me was shining bright and saying, no, I'm not grateful, I'm not happy where I am. So the
yeah.
bracelet said, there, I'm going to be there, but you won't find me because you don't have it in your mind.
Right.
And that's
Right.
why I say, I do agree with you when you say words are powerful, and so are you. You really are. The words you use make you powerful.
Absolutely. And the other thing to mention as far as the power of words are concerned, and it actually relates to what you just mentioned, and that's affirmations. So affirmations, and I'll explain myself in a moment. In my mind, affirmations really don't work. Affirmations
Tell,
don't work for this reason.
tell us more.
I am this, I am that, I will have so and so. If you don't believe what you're saying, you're just reciting words. And that's the power of the affirmation, because if you believe it before you receive it, you will achieve it.
I like that. Guys, if that stuck with you or if it hit a chord in somewhere, please type that in. And Coach Reggie, do repeat those golden words.
If you believe it, you can receive it and then achieve it.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So, and again, I'm going to keep going back to this. As a coach, I am creates a declaration.
Yes.
You speak it into existence. I am going to make dinner. I am going to log into this call. I am going to the store, right? And it happens. And this isn't to make it cavalier, right? This is actually creation. You make it happen. And in an affirmation, if there's creation in the affirmation, but you don't believe that creation can be made, right? To your point, you didn't feel as though you were worthy of gratitude, so you didn't feel grateful. So
Yes.
whatever attitude, whatever affirmations of gratitude you may have spoken or read, The feeling wasn't in your heart that it was true.
Yep.
So you were just reciting words. And that's the thing that I try to get people to understand, or at least to share with them for their own consideration. You have to believe it. And if you don't believe it, then the words you're saying are just that. They're just words. And then back to words are powerful. That's the essence of it. So understanding how powerful those words are and that you can speak something into existence. Talk about powerful.
Absolutely. That's definitely powerful. And I think more powerful than words itself is silence,
Mm,
which
indeed.
which I have known you to be a big, big advocate of. I mean, I've observed you on meetings, in sessions where there's this wisdom that you walk in with the silence and the power of the words that you bring to the table. Tell us about the lack of words being even more powerful than that of words being spoken.
Sure, sure. So silence offers the space or creates the environment for reflection. Oftentimes people are uncomfortable or perhaps even nervous with silence, and they feel they need to fill it with some words, or perhaps someone can ask a question or make a comment, and when there's silence they feel they either need to restate their question, justify their comment, as opposed to allowing the person they're speaking to reflect on what was said so they can process it, so they can decide what they want their response to be, or if a response is even necessary. Prime example, you can look at your husband or your son and say, "Thank you so much for whatever. I really appreciate that." And then, they could simply say, "You're welcome." And that's it. That's it.
That's
There's nothing else to say. Also as a coach, and I keep saying that for people either who aren't familiar with coaches or who aren't coaches, just so they understand why we do what we do. If we ask a question, once the question has been asked, there's nothing else to say. As a coach, I have nothing else to say, and then that's your opportunity to reflect on the question, to ponder the response. Sometimes you don't have a response, and that's okay. Because in that silence, that's your opportunity to reflect on that. And so that's why, in my mind, silence is so powerful because there's so much that's said in the silence. And it's not necessary for me to hear.
I was using silence.
Indeed. Indeed.
So yes. But what about the times we doubt ourselves? Because
Mm.
those moments will come, right? As and it happens even as coaches. Sometimes
Oh, yeah.
when you have a client who gets uneasy and you really want to quickly jump in and rescue them. I sometimes say that it's okay to let somebody experience that deep end. You don't always have to, pull someone out. You can let them have a moment or two to understand how deep they've gotten themselves into
Oh,
trouble.
absolutely. Absolutely. And to be a little lighthearted, one of the things I often say is I'm a chaperone on the struggle bus.
Ah,
So so I will open the door, invite you to step aboard. We'll drive around the block a few times and just let you struggle.
I like that.
And it's okay, right? Because in us creating a safe space, I'm there. So there's no judgment, there's no right or wrong answer. because whatever your answer is your answer, even if you don't have an answer. And sometimes, to your point, just to sit in the silence and allow them to ponder, just to think
Hmm,
about it.
super. I like that. Okay, we have a question. It's interesting. Vidya asks, can we affirm for someone else?
Can we affirm for someone else? Okay, I'm going to put my coach hat on. Please say more, right? So for me to answer the question, which I certainly don't mind, I want to make sure that I actually understand what that means. So can we affirm for someone else?
Yes. And as Vidya types in a little bit more, I'm going to request those who are new to the channel and are listening in to give the host a pat on the back by hitting subscribe and joining in, because as I said, I'm counting down to the powerful 100, and we will have season 2 of these conversations where I invite people from my circle of genius. And I have been doing daily live videos since May 1st, 2018, which means
Mm,
today will be day 1424 of those daily conversations, day after day after day.
wow. Wow.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That's impressive and powerful.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much. Uh, I pick up my own quotes and I begin to have a tiny little conversation about the little things that make life big. And I think it's interesting to have the right people on board.
So a question for you then, RK,
Mhm.
when you ponder these thoughts,
Hmm.
where do they come from? Or where are some of the places they come from?
From conversations like these,
Mm,
conversations with people like you, with sometimes it could be during a coaching conversation.
mm-hmm.
It could be where I'm explaining something to somebody. Earlier it would be a lot when I'm speaking to my children. So yeah, that's where they come from.
Yeah.
For instance, today I will be talking about, one second, let me tell you what I'm talking about today. Soon after our live today, is the person you want to be is inside you.
Mm, absolutely.
But,
Even if you don't recognize that person in this moment, that person is still inside you. That's beautiful.
and I'm getting goosebumps as you say that.
Yeah.
So,
So I don't want any more time to go by
yes.
in case
Oh,
do we have more?
we
Okay.
yeah, we have more coming from Vidya. She says, for instance, while my daughter looks for a job, I affirm for her.
Ah, okay.
Ah,
So if she means that as in to intercede or on behalf of,
yes.
absolutely.
Hmm,
Absolutely.
I'm surprised.
Yeah. Well, and so for those of us who have children, we want the world for them. We want the best for them. And so I am a firm believer in prayer. I'm a firm believer in energy. And when our prayers, as we affirm those whom we love, that prayer, that energy travels for them, to them, through them, on behalf of them. So there's a level of support we can give, in this case, affirming for her daughter as she looks for a job, or perhaps she's already applied for the job. There's a certain amount of manifestation that comes from that, I believe. So is it possible? It's absolutely possible. Does it work? I believe it does. I'm a witness myself. So hopefully that answers the question.
So if you see me muting and unmuting, it's because I am not at my usual location, and I have a lovely roadside uh, orchestra by the
Okay.
side. So excuse that. Um, what you just said about you literally changed affirmation into prayer, and I like that because there's this beautiful power in prayers, which
Mm,
sometimes Again, not sometimes, it always requires for us to have faith.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, when you look at faith and we look at words, there is the power in words comes due to faith, isn't it?
Hmm. Yeah. So, faith is the evidence of things not seen. Ah, thank you. You see
And
her
we've got
comment there. So here's an
Wonderful, man.
example. Here's an example. Have you ever seen the wind? We see the manifestation of the wind in leaves or trees blowing, flags waving, kites flying. We can't see it, but we believe it's there. Something as simple and something we do for those of us who are able bodied, something we do every day, sit in a chair. The strength of the chair you can't see. When you sit in a chair, even though as parents we say we have eyes in the back of our head, I won't say whether we do or not. But when we sit in the chair, we have faith that chair will support our weight. And when your faith is strong enough, it becomes a belief. When your faith is strong enough, it becomes a belief. Now, the caveat there, if there's something you see or there's something you have faith in and you believe in it and it doesn't manifest into what you thought, then perhaps that's equal to an assumption. Of course, I'm sure, we could get into semantics here, but again, we're talking about words and how words are powerful. And so, if we're talking about prayer and we're talking about faith, and you have a belief that your prayer is heard, not answered, your prayer is heard, there's a difference. So, in the event it's not seen, doesn't mean it's not heard. And so, back to being a parent, how often have our children said something to us and we hear them, but we don't respond? Dad, did you hear me? Yes, I heard you. Why didn't you answer me? I chose not to in this moment, or I'll answer you in just a minute. So, so, so just because you ask doesn't mean you get, because it may not be time.
Or there may be other things that could be better for you.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. There's been more than one job that I just knew was mine. I knew it. I said, God has created this just for me. It's perfect. And I didn't get it. And I was devastated. What I came to understand, though, was in retrospect, every single time, it wasn't for me. So in having faith, if we're going to use that word and talk about it, there's also the belief that what is best for you is what will come to pass.
Mm. My plan had been that both the children will leave the nest and I will focus on myself. My plan had been I will be the kind of empty nester who will enjoy and focus on herself and, share her smile with the world and all of that. And God said, really? Let me show you. Let me show you what I've planned for you. So it was right after leaving my son, flying him out to Australia, that I felt devastated. It felt like,
Mm.
what am I going to do with myself? To look at it from a distance, that looked like the perfect plan. Both the children leave, and I focus on myself. But
Yeah.
then, as the little one started leaving, I began to feel that ache, and I began to feel like, oh, I can't do this. I'm struggling. And just when I thought that pain was hard enough, I lost dad,
Mm.
and everything kind of came crashing down. I would speak to people and I would say, I feel like I've lost my anchor. I used to say, it feels like my anchor has gone. I just feel very lost. But when the time was right and I was ready to receive the learning from that experience or from what I was saying, I realized a ship is not meant to be in the harbor. It is meant to sail. And when that
Yes.
ship sails, you lift the anchor and you take it along. I never thought of it that way. So now when
Yes.
I take a step back and look at what has happened for me, I've realized that I haven't lost my anchor. My anchor has just onboarded the ship that has now set sail on that journey of
Beautiful.
service. So I'm
Yeah.
grateful for where I am and how he is within me now. It always has been, but that realization.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I just had a conversation earlier today with a client who shared going through pictures, and they were pictures of a relationship he was leaving. And he said something that was really profound. Usually, there are no sad memories in pictures.
Hmm.
And I thought about that. Not, I thought about my own life and pictures. And even in our darkest moments, we can look at a picture and have a fond memory.
Yes.
And so metaphors, right? I love metaphors. And you talked about your dad being your anchor and your ship setting sail. And of course, those are all metaphors.
Yes.
But as we journey through life, there are times when we're anchored because we need to be still. And we can also align that with silence, right? The silence of a conversation. Or in conversation, there's silence. So just as in life we have forward movement and there are moments of stillness, in our conversation there's forward movement, there's moments of stillness. And what are we learning in those moments of stillness? That's that's often the question to ask. What am I learning in this moment?
I like that. I like that. Hmm. Thank you for the inputs. We've got Coach Wanda who says it's all in God's timing, not ours. So beautiful. Yes, it is. Mary says retrospect is awakening. Yes, it
Hmm.
definitely is. And Coach Wanda adds to say, I've been there, Coach Reggie. Yes, she has. Yes, we have. We have a question with Pulkit says, do you always get what you manifest?
Oh, do you always get what you manifest? That okay. So I will say first of all, it depends. And to clarify that, to break down the sentence and look at each word as powerful,
Hmm.
manifest. So what is our definition of manifest? And then do you always get what you manifest? Well, first of all, and I believe I mentioned this earlier, when you align your focus with your intention, that's what happens for you. So if you didn't get what you manifested, or if you didn't get what you asked for, Those are two different questions, right? Do you get what you ask for? Or do you get what you manifest? So if you manifest something, then it actually has been created. So I would say, do you always get what you manifest? Yes. Yes, because
Hmm.
you have manifested, past tense, it. Do you always get what you ask for? No. Do you get what you focus on? Usually, yes. And it doesn't necessarily have to be immediate.
Hmm.
But so hopefully that answers the question with some qualification. If manifesting is the actual action or the end result, then yes, you do get it. And if your intention is to manifest, it also goes back to something that was mentioned a little while ago. Is it God's will and does it align? So I can ask for something. It doesn't mean that I'm going to get it, or it doesn't mean that I'll get it in the time I want it.
Hmm.
It also doesn't mean that I'll get it in the way I think I'm going to get it. Sometimes we ask for things, and when something shows up, it's unrecognizable. It's not what we asked for. What did you ask for?
Hmm.
Right? What and where was the power in the words, and were they spoken or were they thought of with intention? What are we ultimately trying to achieve? Sometimes that's not a question we can answer so easily.
Hmm.
Quite frankly, because we haven't given it much thought.
Yep.
Again, as a coach, you know this. You can ask a client, what's on your mind today? What would you like to discuss? What's the topic of discussion today? Oh, I'd like to talk about whatever.
Hmm.
And then through the course of conversation, that's really not what they wanted to talk about.
The problem's never the problem.
Exactly. Exactly.
So before going to the next, and Pulkit, let us know if that has answered your question or if you'd like to discuss a little more into this.
Yeah, please.
And before I go into the next question, I'm just going to highlight a comment that's come in. I was crushed the day Reginald left home, going to the U.S. Army Corps. My feelings were selfish in retrospect. It was what he had aspired to do, what he was called, and I realized he was. Hmm. Yes, it's. I think what's shining for me is that realization that that was the intent that was driving you, and the realization from family that that's what you were called for. So
Hmm.
beautiful. When I finally came to that space of that question from my son, and we've spoken about this before. So, what have you been up to, and what about accountability? Ah, that question. And I sat down and wrote down a list of more than 200 reasons why I must change. I
Mm.
fortified my intention. I had to look at the silliest, simplest of things why I must change and get myself back on track. One reason that really jumped at me was the fact that my kids were watching me,
Mm.
and then everything else. So it's beautiful when you fortify your intention. I'm a strong believer of that, and thank you for bringing that into this conversation. My smile strategy, the I, which is pivotal, which is the center of the smile, is identify the intention.
Mm.
So, yeah, you can't smile without an I in it.
And you make a valid point with, and we've talked about this several times already, intention.
Yep.
When you aren't clear on your intention, you don't know your direction. And so if you aren't happy with where you are in life, the question then becomes, where would you like to be? Where would you like to be? And
Hmm.
then I mentioned this at the beginning of our conversation. More often than not, the focus of the conversation is what they don't want.
Hmm.
What do you want? Or where do you want to be? Well, I know I don't want to be here. Okay. Thank you, Captain Obvious. You don't want to be here. Where would you like to be? And then what would it take to get there? How do you see yourself doing whatever it is you want to do once you get there? Oftentimes, let's take something that I'm sure a lot of people think about and in some cases perhaps even struggle with, and that's their weight. I want to lose weight, okay? How do you want to feel? Well, I want to lose 20 pounds. Great. How do you want to feel? Well, I want to feel great. Okay, how do you feel now? I feel awful. Okay. So once you lose 20 pounds, what will life be like? Well, what do you mean? What will life be like once you've lost 20 pounds? Well, I never thought about it. Okay, give it some thought. Because if the only thing in your life that changes is your pant size, dress size, whatever, and everything else remains the same, you might not be that happy. You'll just be a lighter version of the unhappy you.
I like that.
Because you didn't identify your intention. Right? And then once you've lost that weight, or once you've released it, right? Because if you lose it, you might find it. Once you've released the weight, what do you do then? For those of us who are high achievers, right? We set a lot of goals. Once you cross the finish line and you've accomplished that goal, then what? More often than not, we become, and I'm saying we because I include myself in that conversation because I've been that person. You become addicted to the pursuit of goals. You want to check boxes. I got that done. Great. Now what? What does that mean for you? And the power in those words, if we truly understand what those words mean that we're speaking, we will be more intentional. We will be kinder to ourselves. We will be kinder to others. Words are so powerful because words can cut like a knife. Words that are spoken with ill intention, whether it's out of anger and frustration, misunderstanding, those words create more chaos and devastation than practically, for the sake of argument, anything we could do. And more often than not, we don't give that very much thought, particularly in the words we speak to ourselves. Here we go. Here comes a declaration. I'm so clumsy. I'm so forgetful. I'm so irresponsible.
I'm so tired.
Yeah, I'm so tired. Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. I'm so tired. You're right. I'm so bored. You're right. I'll never get this. You're right. I'm just not a people person. You're right. You spoke it into existence. That's what you created. But is that your intention?
Nope.
And that's the key. What is my intention? What am I ultimately trying to achieve? So those are some of the questions in our personal conversation. And I would assert most people don't have those kinds of conversations, not to a point where they ask the question, embrace the silence for reflection, to ponder the question, and then come to an answer. We usually just make the statement. Interesting, you said, I'm so tired. Client conversation this morning. My response to that was, Even the lion sleeps. You are muted, my dear.
So even the host goofs up. It happens,
That's
okay?
all right. It does happen.
It does happen, all in goodwill. So
Absolutely.
tell me, what's the difference between confidence and overconfidence?
Okay. Well, the word geek's going to come out now. So
Okay,
I won't go.
before you even answer, and sorry to interrupt you because we
Sure.
have a special message for you. We have a message that your Sunday school teacher, Miss Ruli, is watching.
Okay, great.
Thank you
Hello,
for watching us. Hello, Miss Ruli.
hello, Martha Ruley. Yes. All right. So what's the difference? All right. So I won't go into the etymology of confidence. And I think for the sake of argument, we can all agree that confidence is simply an assurance uh, in an ability, right? I am confident I can drive a car,
Mhm.
just as an example. Anything that's over, right? We take overwhelm. I saw a really funny, I think it may have been a TikTok or Instagram, I don't remember which, but this it's this couple, and the gentleman is always telling jokes. And so the woman says, "How are you today?" He says, "I'm whelmed." She said, "What do you mean?" He says, "I'm whelmed." And she said, "That's not a word." He said, "Of course it is. I'm whelmed. I'm not underwhelmed. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm just easy. I'm whelmed." So, and I had never heard that before. I thought I was pretty clever. But if you think about overwhelm, overcome, overconfident, all of those things are above and beyond. And in many cases, when over is a prefix like overconfident, overwhelm, overcome, it's extra, it's more than. So if being confident or confidence is having an assurance in an ability, then I would say overconfidence is being too sure, perhaps even reckless, depending on the ability in which you are assured you're confident in. So if it's driving a car, here's another word, overcompensate, right? In driving, if you're driving in inclement weather and you come upon a curve, right? And we hear all the traffic on your side.
Mm.
If you overcompensate as you turn the wheel, it could be dangerous. If you're overconfident in your ability to manipulate that curve, it could create an issue, right? So being over, in my mind, being over anything is above and beyond. And in some cases, it could carry you beyond to a point where there's no longer an element of care, but actual carelessness.
Hmm. Thank you.
Sure.
So we had a question coming in from Vidya earlier. She says, "Do issues impede the manifestation of an affirmation? How does an issue interfere with an affirmation?"
Okay. Do issues impede the manifestation of an affirmation? So if we take that question, and thank you for the question, if we just break that down word for word, issues, right? Something that is a concern or additional.
Mhm.
Impede. That slows down the process. So does something either unavoidable or not planned for get in the way of a manifestation or an affirmation? I would say yes. Of course, I would also say it depends. It depends on the issue and it depends on the degree of the impediment. How do issues interfere in the manifestation of affirmation? So I think that's the same
It's the
question, right?
same
Yeah,
question.
yeah,
She just mentioned it more simpler.
yeah. So how do they? Oh my gosh, you name it.
Mm.
You name it. I'm sure, Vidya, you can think of many issues that arise or that have arisen that interfered. Because so if you are clear on your intention, then the realization of your manifestation more often than not has a greater what's the word I want? It has a greater, the words are failing me. It's more than likely to occur. But if something comes up that takes you off your focus and it no longer aligns with your intention, then sure, it can. And how do they? That there's so many different things that come up there. It's almost difficult to answer. I mean, I could certainly say, do they interfere? Yes. How do they? In many different ways. It can delay, it can derail, um, and then so there's the there's the prefix of de. It can derail, it can diffuse, it can certainly throw you off your game. So hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you for that. Um, how do you make sure that you're mindful when you're speaking your words, when you're using your words, not even speaking? Because sometimes we don't even speak them out. They're in our head and they're
Hmm.
already,
Hmm.
working their magic. So how can you be mindful of how you use your words?
How can you be mindful? All right, so one of the keys to my communication is to be mindful of words. And so more often than not, the word how implies action or doing, right? Because you say, how do you?
Yes.
So my first response is, who are you being? What is your mindset? So if you're mindful, you are paying attention. You have created an awareness. You have created an intention. And so if your focus aligns with your intention, I would assert you are being mindful. You're more than welcome. Thank you. Thank you for your questions.
So, so when you are being mindful of who you are being,
Hmm.
and what if somebody does not have that awareness of who they are being? So, what are certain, maybe three top tips that you could share with people?
Sure. The first one goes back to what we talked about earlier, and that's silence, right? Because in silence, there is patience. So for those of us that meditate, that requires an incredible amount of patience, right? So in no particular order, right? But the three. One is be patient. The other is be intentional. And the last one is be kind.
I like that.
Be kind to yourself. Be patient with yourself. Going through life with intention. If we think of it, and metaphorically speaking, right? If we imagine our journey in life is intentional and we are kind to ourselves and we go through life with some element of patience. We've all heard trust the process. Uh, things take time, right? Everyone who has been blessed to be a mother from conception through gestation to deliverance, however that child is delivered into the world. All of that is a process and it takes time. You can't rush that. I have a client whose wife just gave birth a week ago. It takes time on this journey for you and me as coaches to get to a point where we're comfortable in our coaching. That takes time. As we watch our children grow, and we're only here for a flicker, but it still takes time. So being patient, being kind, and being intentional.
Hmm. I'm just going to let that settle in. I'm just going to let that settle in. It's beautiful. I feel like very often we're quick to be kind to others, but when it comes to our own selves, I don't know where that sense of kindness just disappears.
Mm-hmm.
I think we judge ourselves so much. We don't need anybody else to beat us down. If only we could choose kindness also for ourselves. The
Oh,
world would be so
absolutely.
different. The
Absolutely.
world itself and we ourselves would be so different.
I agree.
So I see that we've got lots of friends and family watching. We've got new listeners, and for the purpose of acquainting them with who I am and my smile strategy, I'm just going to quickly run through the 5 steps. My smile strategy teaches people to get from feeling stuck to unstuck using gratitude and acceptance. And I say acceptance comes when you smile. S stands for silence the mind, manage your attention, identify the intention, let things go, even when they're honking out there, let them go,
Yes.
literally. And E is energize the possibilities. So that's how it
Beautiful.
comes together. And I received this when I sat in silence.
Mm.
It's not something that I've researched or done papers and projects across. No, I haven't. The more I speak of it, the more I share it on my sessions, the more I realize how beautiful it is. So, yes,
Indeed.
thank you for that. And we've got some comments coming in.
Oh, you just muted yourself.
Did I do
There
that?
you go.
Sorry.
There you go. No problem.
Thank you. She says, Mary says, silence can sometimes speak louder than audible voice. It surely can.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Mary Jackson said, uh, Demetria says, as you both should be. Oh, she's talking about the little comment up there about mom and dad are proudly enjoying. Thank you, mom and dad, for watching. So awesome. Okay, so we are close to the hour. That was the fastest hour, and it just flew like that. Lovely conversations
Yeah.
with you are always so powerful. Thank you for being the person that you are,
Thank you. Thank you.
Coach
Thank
Reggie.
you.
Thank you. Um, what would you like to share as closing comments for our listeners?
Hmm. so so to close as we opened, the power of words. or I'll say it this way, words are far more powerful than we actually believe. And if you don't believe it, think of something that was said to you years ago that was hurtful, that you still remember and you still reflect on. And if those same words or similar words are spoken by someone else, it gets the same response. Conversely, also think of the kindest words that ever been spoken to you, and the thoughts and the feelings that manifest when you hear those words. And so speak kindness to yourself, speak kindness to others, and that will manifest exactly what you desire. So thank you so much for this opportunity, my good friend.
Thank you for kindly saying yes. Thank you. I'm
Thank you.
very honored to have you, as I said, on this precious countdown. And I'm so grateful you said yes and we were able to do this. And I think the world outside is celebrating with bells and whistles for us. Let's put it that way. Let's celebrate the noise around us.
Indeed. Indeed.
Yeah. So we've got gratitude coming in from everyone. Andrea says, "Know you and Deacon Jackson on cloud nine." Uh, Thanks, Rooks. This session has been truly precious. Vidya adds to say, absolutely interesting, intriguing session. Precious indeed. Thanks a ton, Coach Reggie. You are awesome indeed. He is. He says, thanks to both of you. And Coach Wanda adds to say, thank you, Coach Rukaya and Coach Reggie, for this great conversation on words and the on point nuggets. Thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you, everyone who joined us. And as you can see, this was quite an amazing session. Share it with friends and family, people who
Indeed.
need to receive this message. And once again, Coach Reggie, I thank you for your time, your wisdom, and your energy. Truly honored and grateful to have you on board today. And
Thank you.
to each and every one of you who have listened. And yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
One thing I will also say, and this of course is a shameless plug, as you
Please.
have invited me, of course, you are invited to my podcast, which is It's Hard Because We Say It Is. You can find that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere podcasts are heard. I'm actually going to uh, resurge the podcast. It's been on hiatus, so yeah. In April we're going to launch the next season. So looking
Super.
forward to that, and you and I will get together soon about that as well.
I'm so looking forward to that conversation. And by April, I will be back home in a bit of silence. That should be fun
Excellent.
then.
Beautiful.
Super. Looking forward to that. And once again, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Coach Reggie. Thank you for the listeners watching us live and on the replay later. Have a great rest of the day. Good night, everybody. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Bye
That's
bye.
right. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye bye.